Look at Maury out here at Day Behind.
Yeah, Maury, what time zone are you in? Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, and welcome back to Law and Legitimacy, where the world continues to spin on its axis, and we are holding on by fingernails. So, one of my avocations is stand-up comic, and I know, don't quit your day job. That's what audiences mutter under their breath. But I'm always in search of material, so I need some help today. Here's the setup. You got to help me with the punchline. Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, and Joe Biden walk into a bar. What happens next? I know one thing. The three of them are thinking to themselves, damn, I'm glad Christie's not here. We don't have to pick up tabs for his chicken wings, pick up the tab. But, throw some punchlines out to us and we'll retreat to them during the course of this morning's broadcast. Again, the setup is Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, and Joe Biden walk into a bar. What's the punchline? I mean, everybody falls asleep. The bar closes. Sales go up. I don't know.
I like this. I'm going to reframe it. They lower the bar. I was going to say it sinks.
That works, Maury. That works. Hey, so, it would take an extraordinary piece of news, in my view, because I'm a University of Michigan fan, to drive the Wolverines' conquest in the national championship off the front pages in the top storyline of the sports pages around the country. But it would take something extraordinary to do that. And something extraordinary did happen last night. Nick Saban, 72 years old, is retiring as head coach of the Crimson Tide, the University of Alabama's football program. Wow. Mike, I mean, what's Alabama going to do without him? What's college football going to do without him? I realize he's got a career of selling Aflac, and I kind of wondered what was going on when they teamed him up with Deion Sanders in the ads. At the same time, they were easing out Limu Emu, handler in Liberty Mutual. But what's Alabama going to do without Saban?
Well, let's spend a moment and just bask in the glow that is Nick Saban and what he took from his prior career at LSU with the Cleveland Browns.
Wait a minute. Maury, send me your number. I'm a stand-up comedian and a Shakespearean actor. Is that a joke or is that true? Anyhow, Nick Saban.
And came to Alabama in 2007 and built a program that became the zenith of college football.
Yeah, that really did.
And so impenetrable in terms of the expectations, in terms of the belief in the future success of the program, the teams to come after in the successive years, a complete trust, and not only on behalf of Roll Tide Nation, but on behalf of all college football, right? You are hard pressed to find a college football fan on average that is more confident, and I don't want to say complacent at all, but more confident in the program that they are a fan of than an Alabama fan. And I've had the gift of having a father who is a diehard Tide fan my entire life. So the University of Alabama has
had to grow up under those circumstances. You really have overcome adversity to become a complete and fine human being. Are you trying to tell me that your father to this day is an Alabama football fan? He must be so devastated that his team was beaten by the University of Michigan Wolverines, crushed, and lost a game they probably should have won because they were outplayed by another team. That must be so hard on your dad, Mike.
I think that what probably is redeeming for my father is hearing someone speak as you do that is not quite used to winning national titles as often as he is used to getting the news that they've won another one. So Nick Saban has won 6 national titles since 2007.
Wow.
He has his teams have won the SEC championship 9 times in his tenure. And his record, do you have any idea what his overall record with Alabama is, Norm?
Oh, I'm going to say 90-20.
206 wins, 29 losses.
Wow.
206 wins.
And what was his last loss?
And 29 losses. The last loss was the NIL. right? That
Well,
move.
what does Alabama do? I mean, how does an institution, I mean, Nick Saban is sort of like the is to college football what Clarence Darrow was to trial lawyering. I mean, he just sort of set the standard to which everyone else aspires. How does Alabama replace a legend? What do they do?
Well, again, I don't necessarily, Norm, want to focus on what Alabama does. They'll be fine. I think that there were rumblings that the Oregon head coach was about yesterday, and that there could be news of a new hire as soon as today.
What about
Um,
Deion Sanders?
no way, it's not going to happen. I think Deion Sanders has a great thing with Colorado, and I think again, talking about expectations of winning. This season for Colorado has turned out far subpar as compared to how it started. But it's amazing to see the expectations on a program that went from, low single digit wins the prior year to national recognition and national press, and the expectations um, that were foisted upon Colorado just with the introduction of Deion Sanders based on who he is. Dawn is correct. Bear Bryant set the stage, and when Nick Saban came to Alabama, it was his promise that he was going to make the fans proud, and that he was going to return the University of Alabama football program to glory, to its former glory. And I don't know that anybody in a head coaching position with a really prominent school like Alabama has said anything different, right? When they take the mic and they're introduced as the new head coach, it's so rare to watch somebody live their words out, and that's really what I wanted to focus on. I know that we've probably already lost a few people who don't like hearing about sports, but I want to be very frank with you. Um, you're missing something if you get irritated by the concept of sports within the framework of law and legitimacy. And I do encourage you to think past the numbers on the scoreboard or the entertainment value of sports. Some of the most important people in my life, in my formative years, in my family and in extended family have come to me and shaped me into the young man I am by and through the competitive nature of sports. And what Nick Saban represents, more than a man who has accomplished a ton, is the the total sum of his decisions made, and his discipline and his approach to leadership as a conduit to
Well,
excellence.
it's
No,
funny you should say that. Years ago, when I was a junior partner in a prior incarnation, my senior partner and the managing partner of the firm was John Williams, a legend in federal civil rights law. We were hiring associates, and we interviewed a young guy, and he was a former collegiate baseball player. And I just didn't think a lot of the guy. And so John turned to me and says, "What do you think?" And I said, I don't know. He doesn't knock me out. He says, I'm taking him. And, John was the managing partner. So my vote was advisory. His was binding. I said, okay, why? Because he's a competitor. He knows how to compete. And when he loses, he knows how to come home, regroup, and go out and compete again the next day. And, so, and there is something truthful or something important about that, at least with respect to trial lawyering, because I don't, certainly I pick my cases. People call, and a typical case for us is we're going to be the third or fourth lawyer in. The case is going to be a mess. The client's not going to have much money left. We're going to take whatever we can get financially, and we're going to make the most of the case. And sometimes we win, and sometimes we lose, and sometimes you lose a couple big ones in a row. And you've got to pick up your bed and walk, and you've got to realize that the game, the business of law, the practice of representing people within the law's shadow and advancing their interests, regardless of whether the playing field is tilted or not, that defines you. And I think sports brings that out in people, because one way or another, you're going to take the field and you're going to give it everything you got. And if you don't, shame on you. And if you give it all and lose, there's no shame in it. And people sometimes say, criticize me for the cases I take. I say I win every time, because if I win, I'm a genius. If I lost, I fought like an animal. And if you don't like the cases I take, you're talking about me. I don't even know who you are. So which part of that is a loss? So I think Nick Saban brought a winner's attitude to his team. he infused his program with that attitude, and then they won, which makes him a genius. So God bless Nick Saban.
I sent this to you, but we're going to relate this to legitimacy a little more directly, and I want everybody to pay close attention to what Nick Saban is saying here in this clip.
And the big part of being a team is you have to be able to communicate with other people, and you have to work with other people. And you can never have any team chemistry for this reason. Mediocre people don't like high achievers, and high achievers don't like mediocre people. So if everybody doesn't buy into the same principles and values of the organization and the same high standard, you're never going to be successful.
What did I tell you when I sent that to you yesterday?
That you didn't like me anymore because I was a mediocre person?
Same goes for America.
Yeah.
Mediocre people don't like high achievers, and high achievers don't suffer fools gladly, right? Nick Saban put into the spirit of the young men that came through his program that if they wanted to achieve excellence, that it was a process, and the process had to be understood at an almost granular level to give command to what it took to reach the zenith that the Alabama program became. Young men understand how to get more out of themselves, not just on the football field. We do live in a time where where merit is being totally subverted in the interest of collectivized equity, blah, blah, blah. Nick Saban represents everything good about America. Everything. So,
oh, God bless America. God bless Nick Saban. Let's see what happens to the program. I mean, I know they've lost some 5-star commits, or at least one overnight, who decided to decommit and reassess his options. Let's hope the spirit of excellence.
I'm not making funeral arrangements yet, Alabama. Roll Tide.
Yeah, well, I don't know about Roll Tide, but farewell, Nick Saban. And I mean that. I hope you fare well in whatever you do next in life. Thank you for fantastic memories and for a wonderful role model of class, of determination, and of excellence in action. For those of you who tire of hearing about sports on Law and Legitimacy, we're sorry, but we're about excellence, and we're about competition, and we're about putting it out on the field, whatever that field is. And sports is a really direct hit, and it's an inspiring thing for those of us who compete for a living to see it in action.
Hey, and come back and tell me your VO2 max if you're tired of hearing about sports on Law and Legitimacy. I don't want to hear it from anybody that doesn't have a VO2 max worth talking about. Anyway, see you later.
God. Wow, that's quite the challenge, the VO2 max challenge. So, and I don't see anything in the feed of comments I have. Again, one of the challenges for today's program is coming up with a punchline for the following setup. Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, and Joe Biden walk into a bar. What happens, peeps? Come on, give us something. What's going on in the International Criminal Court? What is the International Criminal Court? So there is a body.
Start small.
There is a body known as the International Criminal Court, or the World Court, and it is reposed in The Hague. And it corresponds to an instinct that is old as a small essay that Dante wrote, I think in the 14th century, called De Monarchia. And Dante took the position that it would be possible to have a world government to be governed by universal standards of justice. And he took the position that in the long arc of human history, that is the direction in which we should move. And there are those who now in the 21st century believe in global governance and global norms of governance, and who contend that human species, all of us, you, me, and the other 8 or so billion folks wandering the face of the earth, have in common something that can be administered in the name of our collective good. And that is the pursuit of a global norm, global equity, justice, and that the development of non-governmental global institutions will promote justice. And so the International Criminal Court is one of their highest achievements. It aspires to set up a forum in which international disputes can be decided peacefully by an international body. Is it a pipe dream? Certainly, the United States is not signed on and submitted to the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court because we, the people in this continent, want to set our own destiny and don't want international norms interfering with how we administer or govern ourselves, thus raising the question in some people's minds about whether we're antiquated, whether the concept of national sovereignty is inconsistent with global flourishing. That's just by way of a 30,000-foot view of what goes on or what's at stake in the International Criminal Court. It is an institution with an organized bar and lawyers that appear before it, and a body of law that it seeks to apply to international disputes. And one of those bodies of law is the 1948 Genocide Convention, which nations have signed on to, and which prohibits any activity that in whole or in part seeks to eradicate a national, ethnic, or religious group. And so the government of South Africa has filed in the International Criminal Court papers basically asking for injunctive relief, asking for the International Criminal Court to issue a
Who
set of
filed? Who?
South Africa, the government of South Africa. As a
I wanted to hear you say that again. I just think that's funny.
yeah, there are ironies in it, So, the government of South Africa, which has its own genocide problem right now with respect to white farmers, the government of South Africa has filed papers in the International Criminal Court asking for the court to declare that Israel is engaged in genocide with respect to the people of the Palestinians in Gaza, and to order Israel to stop. Now, the International Criminal Court can issue such an order, and it's binding. There can be no appeal from such an order. However, the International Criminal Court has no enforcement mechanism. It has, I guess, moral authority, one would say, or the authority that comes of it being a global voice. Would a decree by the court have any practical effect? So South Africa filed its papers, I believe, yesterday. Israel, which will respond or is obliged to respond by Friday. There'll be argument and a hearing later in the month, and the court could very well issue a declaration. Here's the problem I have with the International Criminal Court. Where is the directive? Where is the motion? Where is the paper filed against Hamas for engaging in genocide? Where is the decree against Hezbollah for engaging in genocide? Where is the decree against those Arab states that have harbored a desire to drive Israel and, let's face it, the Jews into the sea for decades with respect to genocide? I don't see it. And, Israel could, of course, file such, motions in the court and ask for relief. But that would be asking for music from the banging on a tin can. All the International Criminal Court can do is give the opinion of the jurists who sit on it and hope that the world follows with respect to its policymaking decisions. So I don't know what to make of the International Criminal Court. Mike, true confessions time. 15 or so years ago, I got an application to the bar of the International Criminal Court, and I was going to apply. And then I thought, well, why would I want to be a member of the bar of the International Criminal Court? I guess because it'd be cool to go to The Hague, and it would be cool to say, I'm a member of this cutting edge thing with global jurisdiction. But then I realized that it was the functional equivalent of playing fantasy football. As fun as it might be, it didn't really have any cash value. And what's more, how do you get clients if you're a member of the bar of the International Criminal Court? So it's a toothless body that aspires to set global norms, but in this case, I think it's being used as a stage to frankly pummel Israel when it's fighting for its existence and the existence of its people in the face of the very accusation that's being waged against Israel. Is there a victim of genocide in the Middle East? It certainly isn't the Palestinians. If there's a desire to eradicate a people because of their national, ethnic, or religious orientation, it would be the state of Israel and its neighbors who have, since 1948, had a determination to drive this state into the sea. So South Africa, I ain't buying it. You can take your papers and shove it where the sun don't shine.
What I've got on the screen here, Norm, just to correct, I think you said they filed it a couple of days ago. South Africa filed this on December 29th, and I believe Israel announced that it was going to be answering on January 2nd. What I've got on the screen here is Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs response to the International Criminal Court. And they say, in large part, Israel is committed to international law and acts in accordance with it and directs its military efforts only against the Hamas terrorist organization and other terrorist organizations cooperating with Hamas. Israel categorically rejects the outrageous South African blood libel and its appeal to the International Court of Justice. And they go on to say that South Africa lacks both a factual and legal basis and constitutes despicable and contemptuous exploitation of the court.
Thank you for the correction. I guess thus proving the fallacy. Just because you only read about it yesterday doesn't mean it occurred yesterday. And I am guilty. Thank you, Mike, for that necessary correction. The controversy remains, and let's see what happens. So we've got a few responses to Nikki, Ronnie, and I guess Joey walk into a bar. What happens? Nikki says Nikki wears her 5-inch heels. Ronnie Heels wears his super high heel boots. What's going on with these shorties? I don't know, Junior Coltrane.
Lawyer Will's got one for us over on Rumble. Lawyer Will says, the bartender says, howdy, what can I get you? Nikki says, I'll take a water. Here's a signed copy of my book. Also, Putin hates your freedom. Ron says, hey, down here, I'll have a beer. But I guess the rest of your punchline got cut off there, Lawyer Will. Biden says something.
Well, Biden, no, I mean, that may be it. Biden says, Biden looks confusedly saying, where's the restroom? As he wets himself. 2024, last night I had dinner with a friend, where I actually drinks with a friend who happens to be a judge. And he said, what do you think is going to happen in 2024? And I didn't know quite what to say to that. I said, we're going to have an election, obviously. And I suspect that the year is going to be more violent than 2023 was, and then early 2020 or 2020 was, and early 2021. But I don't know quite what to expect. He said, well, I expect Trump to win, and people are going to go crazy. And it certainly looks that way at this moment. I don't see, I was disappointed in the debate last night that Vivek Ramaswamy didn't make the threshold, because when I look at DeSantis and Haley going at it, I'm thinking, man, if it's a choice between Haley, DeSantis, and Biden, I'm going to click none of the above. But yet, at the end of the election, there's going to be somebody in office, and if it's one of these three, my sense of the republic is we're going to be circling the drain hard in 2024. Why didn't Ramaswamy make this threshold, Mike? I didn't realize he hadn't. I wasn't paying attention.
So it was a CNN town hall, and CNN's requirements to make the stage apparently was that you had to be polling at 10% in at least 3 independent polls, and Ramaswamy is at 5%. I believe, for the sake of argument, I think the Des Moines Register here says that Trump is polling at 51% in Iowa. So it's not as if CNN was really in a position to be picking whether somebody was qualified, or has a statistically significant polling chance to be heard on their platform if they're not also going to have Trump. But I digress. Vivek did appear on Tim Pool's. They did a live town hall last night during the debate, and I was able to listen to, I would say, about 70% of that in the early morning hours this morning, and I'm encouraged by his perspective. One thing that we haven't talked about but did break yesterday was the Governor Chris Christie, presidential hopeful Chris Christie, being caught on a hot mic. Did you hear that audio?
I didn't hear it, but I read about it. Tell us about it, though, in case folks have missed it.
Here, I'll play it even better, right?
In places like that.
Yeah, that's what you.
Well, when you give land to China and places like that.
Yeah, that's what you get.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, she spent 68 million so far, just on TV. Spent 68 million so far, 59 million by DeSantis, and we spent 12. I mean, who's punching above their weight and who's getting a return on their investment?
Make weight jokes, Chris.
We get smoked, and you and I both know it. She's not up to this.
And she's still 20 points behind Trump in New Hampshire, right?
Yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah.
And he's still going to carry out, right?
Yes. Oh, I talked to DeSantis called me, petrified that I would.
He's like getting out after Iowa.
So there are several things here. Number one, Chris Christie caught on a hot mic. Whether I believe that the mic was truly hot for purposes of this conversation, or not is, I guess, immaterial, but at least worthy of some suspicion considering the political animal that Chris Christie that we know Chris Christie to be. And I apologize, everybody, for Rosie going a little nuts there.
Was that Rosie or was that your subconscious?
That was Rosie. Anyway, what we learned there is that Nikki Haley has spent $68 million in TV advertisements next to DeSantis is 59, I believe, and then Chris Christie has spent 12.
Hmm.
And what's amazing to me is that on the podcast with Vivek, he talked pretty specifically about the Trojan horse in this election, the fact that Biden is still sort of assumed to be the Democrats' candidate for president, and there isn't anybody else sort of waiting in the wings. They're not going to primary him. You know, it's not going to be Newsom. It's not going to be Michelle Obama or otherwise, is a testament to the fact that the progressive liberal dollars are going into the Haley campaign. They have chosen to run Haley because she is the establishment position, someone very easy to control, and is perfect to allow the Democrat platform to repair itself after the significant reputational damage that it sustained with many of the voters that it would otherwise rely on in the forthcoming election. So Vivek's prediction and what he is saying to anybody that is interested in trying to understand why this sort of game of chicken between Biden and Trump seems to be the best that we can do, it's because he is saying that the game here, that the trick is that Haley is the Democrats' candidate. That is who.
Yeah, possibly. I get that. That's a good argument, and I noticed that Ron Coleman had Vivek on his podcast the other day, and we haven't been able to land.
That was back in 2021. He just reposted it. So that interview with him was back from 2021, I think, when he had just published Woke Inc.
All right. So look, did you notice yesterday that the Judge Engoron in New York reversed course? He was going to permit Trump to give closing arguments in his New York fraud case, and then he reversed himself yesterday after Trump's lawyers began to argue and to object to directives from Engoron that would have required Trump to, quote unquote, stick to the facts of his case. So I think the Donald woke up. He viewed this as an opportunity, the Engoron closing arguments, to address the American public on a stage in which they would all be watching, because he hasn't really had much media coverage this year. Mainstream media is not going to repeat the mistake it believes it made in 2016 of giving this reality television star free publicity worth billions. He's going to have to fight to get on the air this year, and his attempt to give his own closing arguments failed. I think closing arguments will take place today in this case, and I expect a decision fairly quickly from Judge Engoron. So nice try, Donald, to get back in the headlines. It didn't work. I'm not sure what happens next.
Well, I mean, he is back in the head. So this was a theory that, so I'm going to go super 8000D MAGA chess conspiracy theorist for a second here. But
okay, time's up. Let's return to reality. No, go ahead.
But Chris Christie being caught on a hot mic is just too convenient for me right now. He drops out, but he was caught on a hot mic saying, giving the tea about, how much money has been spent by the Haley campaign on TV ads, and the fact that he has some relationship with DeSantis. Why would DeSantis call him petrified? And we don't know what came after that. But notably, Chris Christie and Trump have really had a pretty symbiotic relationship in many ways, because Trump's absence from these debates has been a focus and a theme within the debates themselves among the candidates. And Chris Christie disclosing that Haley is going to get smoked and she knows it, talking about how much money she spent, but then also saying that DeSantis is petrified. It almost seems as though, Trump and Christie are playing a game, and that Christie and Trump's very public discord and the back and forth, the fat jokes, the whatever, really serves a more dynamic purpose to keep Trump's name in the mainstream outlets, no matter what. He is de facto campaigning, and he is de facto a part of the debates because of the controversy, at least the perceptible controversy with Christie. Now that Vivek is surging and is doing waking people up in a way that CNN really doesn't want to acknowledge, and now that Chris Christie is out, we're left with, I mean, two really kind of hollow candidates on the Republican platform, and then Trump. So I don't know. I think that the
I had go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Off mic. I'm sorry. Well, last night I had drinks with an institutional player in Connecticut, a judge. I won't name the person for fear that I would diminish their effectiveness on the bench. But what are you going to think's happen in 2024? And this person conceded they thought Trump would likely win, and I said, well, of course he will. I mean, if there would be a vote today, I would pull the lever for Trump. Why? Not because I think he's a great guy, not because he's somebody I'd want to have drinks with, not even because I necessarily trust him or his instincts, but because I don't believe that government is the solution to our problems. I don't believe that government should be telling us what our problems are and then offering solutions and then managing us in the name of those solutions. When I see the hand of government reaching into my life, I begin to think there's somebody's trying to pick my pocket. Somebody's trying to take advantage of me. This is a limited tool created for limited means. Get your hands away from me. Fuck off. And I think Donald Trump reflects that attitude. And I think that's an attitude shared by a large perspective, a large portion of the American public. And that's the populist impulse. Get out of our way. We're capable of managing our own lives. And that makes Trump the candidate to beat in 2024.
I think that's right. I think that's right. And there's still so much skepticism about Vivek, and I truly don't understand it other than sort of a cynical, kind of broken view and sort of a mistrust of just about everything. I see Vivek as an insurance policy for Trump. Vivek is using very clear and concise language, and he's being very direct. He's proposing solutions. He's giving people plans. He's being very transparent about the legal mechanisms available to the executive day one, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's being very transparent about his belief in the big tech's meddling in the 2020 election. He's being very transparent about his belief that the January 6th insurrection was what we would describe as "quote unquote" an inside job, right? Not from the Biden administration. He makes a distinction on the Tim Pool podcast about that, but he's very active in validating many of the populist sensibilities about what's going on in our modern culture that Trump cannot speak to, because guess what? Trump's embattled in 35,478 lawsuits, right? Is barred from making a statement in his own courtroom and is not on the debate stage whatsoever, right?
Well,
And again, that's voluntary, maybe, but why, if you have that big of a lead, would you bother appearing? So to me, I look at Vivek. People are so skeptical of him being some sort of like Manchurian candidate. I don't see it, and maybe I'm an idiot. There's always room for that to be the case, but
no, there's room. There's a possibility that we both are, and then we need to embrace that arms wide open. I mean, certainly our listeners can reach that conclusion. What I'm missing in the campaign, Mike, is any sense of theme. Right now, I'm seeing a lot of bitching and moaning, a lot of squabbling, a lot of hysterical chest pounding about saving democracy or authoritarianism. But I'm not yet hearing from either side a vision of what America could be. And isn't that what we want to see as a unifying theme in our presidential campaigns? And
Yeah,
when is that going to
Vivek was
emerge?
talking about that. I think, respectfully, Norm, I think that I track with Vivek much more than you do, and I think it's just because I want to hear what he's saying. But he made the statement on this podcast that he believes that 70 to 80% of the American population is unified on at least one topic, that being the southern border and the issue of unchained immigration and whatever is going on within the current administration, sending millions of people into our country. And he's communicated his plans for revising our immigration strategy as a country and previous things, whatever. But it's like, this is the easy, like low-hanging fruit, just like Obama. Okay, except for the fact that Vivek is 38 and almost worth $1 billion on his own, right? Who the hell was Barack Obama? Who was he? Why would you even have listened to him? Yeah, so Barack Obama was refined and had a personality that was, very, very good for the sort of interpersonal communication. He was a salesman, very persuasive, clean cut, said the right
My name's
things.
Barack Obama, and I'm
Right.
slick, and you can come slide with me.
But what incentive does Vivek, being that self-assured and wealthy, what incentive does he have to even do what you're suggesting? I don't understand
Well,
it.
I don't know. I mean, I get it. So, I don't want to circle the political drain too much on this show. That's not our thing. But we still didn't get a great answer from what happens when DeSantis, Haley, and Joe
got
Biden walk into a bar. And I think the best answer is the following. Somebody says, what the hell are you three doing here? Where's Vivek? That's the answer.
Let's see. I think there was another one. Maybe not. The bartender. Oh, they asked the bartender to turn on CNN so they can watch Trump's election win. That's decent, T-girl. Vivek's interesting take on Haley on Tim Pool. Yep, I agree. And but okay, but yeah, SBF was worth billions in his 20s. Noted, except for the fact that
He
that's
stole
been
it.
pretty easily uncovered as total fraud. So anyway, and I think Vivek just cashed out $33 million of what is it? Roivant, his company's stock to invest into his campaign. What he did promise on the podcast last night, Norm, is that he's not dropping out. He's taking it to the finish line.
Well, let's see what happens. 2024, but I guess we're back tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. It only feels like the end of the week. First 5-day week of the year. It feels like it's going on forever. But we've got the Republican primaries coming up, or the primaries coming up on Monday in Iowa. And that is the opening shot, the first official opening shot of the 2024 election campaign. Things will go from there quickly to New Hampshire. And before you know it, results will come flooding in. So buckle your seatbelts. We're well into 2024, and the story of America is unfolding. The next chapter is who shall lead us beyond 2024, and are we capable of being led, or have we sort of become an unruly group of sheep, each following shepherds of our own devices in different directions? We'll find out.
Yeah. Can we communicate to young people that we are a self-governing republic and charge people with fulfilling themselves and not collectivizing their self-interest before they even know who they are? That's the challenge.
And I want to end here today where we began, and this is just a moment's inspiration. This was not planned. Is Nick Saban waiting to be drafted? Roll America.
What political party would Saban run with? That's my concern. Anyway,
American Party.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the America First Party, the Roll Tide Party. That'd be a good one, the Roll Tide. Anyway, follow us on X, please. Thank you. We're trying to reach 1,000 followers by June. I just made that up right now.
Yeah, so let's get it done. Where
are we? 800. We're just shy of 800 now. So follow us on X.
Call your mother up right now. Tell her, Mom, I know you're struggling with this social media thing. I know you're zeroing in on 70 and you're not the woman you once were, but there's this guy, he's about your age and he's on social media every morning and you should watch him. And you should watch him not because you want to listen to what he has to say. You should watch him so you could hear how graceful my generation is in correcting his errors. Why, just the other day, he was talking shit about the International Criminal Court. And one of my contemporaries, Mike Boyer, said, Norm, you're wrong about certain fundamental facts. And Norm took the correction. So it's possible for the great, for you millennials to get along with we younger generations and live together. And you can see a demonstration of how that happens on Law and Legitimacy every morning at 8 a.m.
Thank you, Junior. He says he's going to go sub to our channel with his ghost accounts. How many ghost accounts do you have? We'll take like 400,000 if you got those. Kidding. Last thing here. T-Girl says, Jackson says, when does Vivek get loomered? And T-Girl says 100%. I don't think that happens. If you've been paying attention, Laura Loomer and Candace Owens are in alignment. There is some sort of coordination, or I say that it's not that organized. Loomer is for Trump 1,000%, and Candace Owens has expressed her like for Vivek, and the two of them went back and forth on X last week. And there is a lot of love there. I don't think that there's incentive for Laura Loomer because she probably sees Vivek as the insurance policy that I just described, not putting words in her mouth. She hasn't said that. But there's no incentive for Loomer to go out here and try to find an angle to take down Vivek. Anyway, I'm tired of doing this right now. Everybody, stop being so cynical. Look up, Anyway, see you tomorrow, 8 a.m. We're on YouTube, Rumble, X. If you're not following us already, we're live there at 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. Audio only. Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Play, Overcast, wherever you find.
Hail to the victors valiant. Nick Saban for president 2024. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.
See you, everybody.